Happy Easter!
Yay! Happy April Fool's Day!
Yay! Happy Fred and George's birthday! Oh.
In honor of this frankly bizarre instance of coinciding and contradicting holidays, tonight's episode is going to be a kind of a hodgepodge review of 3 shows that are really only tenuously connected.
Join us as we explore history, politics, and the role of women on
The Couch. Have you ever been watching a show and in your mind you lump it together with another show for absolutely no reason?
Well, that's how we feel about tonight's subjects. The Newsroom from Aaron Sorkin, Mad Men from Matthew Weiner, and their bastard love child shipped off to a quirky British boarding school, The Hour from Abby Morgan. These 3 shows all seem to fulfill the same television role, and yet are very different.
When we're talking about one, we inevitably end up talking about the other 2, and we're not 100% sure why. Maybe the connection is media and politics.
In all 3 shows, media plays a central role. For The Hour, it's about the start of the television news industry. They're basically inventing the news hour. In the Newsroom, they're reinventing the news, oddly enough, by heading back to the kind of heart of journalism and moving away from the entertainment spectacle that the news has become.
And Mad Men is about making everything into an entertainment spectacle.
The great thing about the Newsroom and The Hour is that they actually make me excited about their subjects. I get excited about the news in a way that I'm not actually excited about the news. Mad Men, on the other hand, not so excited about the ad agency. They keep trying to convince me that it's not all about drinking in the middle of the day and beautiful women, but I have yet to see actual proof that there's anything else.
Mad Men is kind of the odd man out in this category. There's much more direct comparison to be drawn between The Newsroom and The Hour. These are both shows that do a fantastic job of creating energy and tension in a story where we already know how it ends.
We have to say that Aaron Sorkin does do a better job creating that tension and energy on The Newsroom. Part of that is because of his very snappy, smart dialogue. The other part is that The Newsroom includes events that happened back in 2011. So I was there and I was watching the news when it happened. And to see the other side of that is very cool.
It makes Aaron Sorkin's feat almost more impressive somehow because these stories are fresh in our memories and he still manages to make it tense.
Sadly, American history classes kind of cut out Europe after about 1945. So I think The Hour suffers on this side of the Atlantic because we don't know too much about what happened over there. Maybe the connection is that all 3 are technically period dramas.
It's just that The Newsroom is a really, really recent period. Actually, they're all more recent periods than we're used to seeing in period dramas. I mean, The Hour is set in 1956, and Mad Men is set in 1960, and The Newsroom is set like 2 years ago.
So just because a show doesn't have bustles, corsets, or syphilis doesn't mean it is not historical television.
Mad Men might have syphilis.
Mad Men probably definitely has syphilis.
That being said, The Newsroom is obviously the odd one out in this category. I mean, Mad Men and The Hour are only 4 years apart. But at the same time, even those 2 shows, occurring so close in time, are so far apart in terms of subject, it's crazy.
I think the difference is the Atlantic Ocean. Mad Men feels very iconically Americana.
Yes.
Obviously, it's set in America, so that makes sense. The Hour, set in London, just has a different flavor and a different feel to it.
Much more like a Cold War spy novel than like 1950s Americana, because it's set in the 50s. I don't know, you automatically think, you know, big skirts and suburbia and picket fence and all of that, and it's just not like that at all. And it really reminds you that, you know, the world is bigger than America.
And how do we broach this subject? The Hour and Mad Men both do a good job of presenting us with a picture of casual misogyny and racism in the mid-20th century.
The racism is much more pronounced in Mad Men because I'm guessing the race issue was much more pronounced in America. But the misogyny is universal.
Now, the question could be raised, are these shows sexist, or are they simply commenting on gender roles in the time period? I would say the latter, although I find Mad Men increasingly frustrating when it comes to this point. The Hour has much more empowered females, I would say.
When I had just seen Mad Men, it was tempting to say, oh, the gender issues are, my frustration with how women are treated, that's just realism, that's part of the show. But I'm not frustrated with how gender is treated on The Hour.
Which brings us to our next possible link, the role of women in all three of these shows.
And thankfully, all three of them can participate equally. We start with Sorkin because, frankly, the newsroom shouldn't be in this category, but it is.
My main issue with Sorkin is that he has written these independent, intelligent, high-powered, successful women characters, and yet almost all of their female characters only talk about love interests when they're alone together. I don't know about the women in Aaron Sorkin's life, but Annie and I don't normally do that.
The thing that frustrates me the most about Aaron Sorkin's female characters is that they don't make sense as human beings. You've got Mac, who's this incredibly high-powered executive producer, and she shipped overseas. She went to Iraq, she went to Afghanistan, she got stabbed, she got shot. She had this life of adventure and running around, and now she comes back to the States and plays essentially a play's mother to this whiny, angry little man-child. And there's nothing wrong with playing mom, but Sorkin's characters seem to do nothing else.
These characters are very dependent on their male counterparts, and I think this is where the newsroom and Mad Men really tie in together. I think you could argue that characters like Peggy and Joan and Rachel are all trying to break out of this box and become independent and their own person without a man, and yet too many of the Mad Men characters are completely dependent on their male counterparts and don't really exist as characters on their own. And that, I think, is where The Hour really shines above these other two, because both Belle and Lix are very independent, very strong women who are actively fighting against this system that wants to keep them confined and boxed in and attached to a man.
It's just very heartening in The Hour to see two women who are living in an extremely sexist system and refusing to succumb to its pressures.
So to summarize, the feminism in The Hour is directly addressed. The feminism in Mad Men is silent.
The sexism in Mad Men is so loud, but the show silently invites you to look at the sexism and notice that it's wrong without really coming out and saying that it's wrong.
And the sexism in the newsroom is supposed to be quietly ignored?
But it's still there. It's this sort of underlying structure where all of the women fulfill female roles and all of the men fulfill male roles, and we're supposed to just buy into that? That doesn't make a balanced cast. People don't fit into roles that neatly.
And speaking of feminism, we've got some ass-kicking ladies that we're excited about. First up, the Red Band trailer for Kick-Ass 2 is out. Hit Girl is looking pretty boss, kicking ass, taking names. And just for you folks at home, Red Band means not safe for work, so use your personal computer.
On a similar note, it has been confirmed that Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts will be putting on an Iron Man suit, and it looks like she's gonna be kicking some ass. So I'm excited about that.
Definitely excited about that.
Yeah.
And finally, for Kick-Ass ladies, a Kickstarter campaign was recently launched to fund a Veronica Mars movie. Now, this is big for a couple of reasons. First off, I love Veronica Mars, and I'm super excited to see this movie. Secondly, this Kickstarter campaign was huge. It hit a number of Kickstarter records, one for being the most expensive project on Kickstarter, but also for being one of the fastest projects to reach its goal. It hit its $2 million mark within the first 8 hours of the campaign. And then finally, and probably the most exciting, this is a fan-funded film.
It's pretty revolutionary.
And it's kicking up a whole lot of news about other cult classics that got canceled before their time.
People are already talking about Firefly.
People are talking about Pushing Daisies.
All kinds of things. Fans taking back the fandom. It's exciting. And speaking of fandoms, the second half of the 7th season of Doctor Who has aired. We haven't seen it yet, but we're excited about it.
So that's what we're excited about this week.
Join us again next time.
And until then,
Keep watching.